6 p.m. We're live on YouTube. It's time for some in-depth analysis, passionate debate, and round 19 predictions. It's time for the Captain's Run. It is indeed time for the Captain's Run. It's Thursday. We're about, getting on for a few hours, 2 hours and a bit off, of course, round number 19 of the Betfred Super League. Dear Lord, where is this season going? Unbelievable. And with me tonight, yes, we've got both sides of the fence. We've got Hooter, we've got Tackle Talk, we've got Lauren, our Catalans Dragons fan. How are you, Lauren?
I'm good, thanks. Are you?
I'm just laughing. I mean, this is like that sketch with John Cleese, isn't it? You know what I mean? Look how small you are and look how big Craig is. And of course, Craig Forth is with us as well from Final Hooter, mate. Okay?
I'm good, mate. How was yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. For those on the podcast who are listening, it really isn't hilarious. You've got Craig, who's like right at the top of the screen, man in the middle, and Dawn at the minute. She looks like something out of Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. It's quite funny. It is quite funny. It has to be said. But, we're going to be going through all 7 of the round 19 games, as only the Captain's Run does on a Thursday before, of course, all the action takes place. And, of course, we're live for a change. So, do us a favour now. Share this for me. What we're about to do. Nobody's doing this online before the kickoff of any round in Super League. Only Super League Raw delivers on a Thursday night, just before the Sky production. Of course, no Sky production tonight, of course. But yeah, tell all your friends about us. Get it shared now. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe. If you can hype, that'd be absolutely lovely if you do that as well. By all accounts, if you just swipe to the left on YouTube, where the comments is, you have a chance to hype the show, and that helps us to grow as well. This is, for me, the only live Thursday night show that previews the Betfred Super League. So please like, comment and subscribe, and we will give you your shout outs like Nick Young, who's up in the Trin already in the chat. Good evening to you, Nick. We hope you're well. But now, really important business, really important business, ladies and gentlemen, because this Saturday it is the Summer Smash. The Summer Smash at Halifax Strength Unit in Halifax. That's right. Get this postcode into your sat nav. Of course, I do appreciate there'll be some Warrington and Hull KR fans that can't go to this. I get that. But just for your sat nav, Hotel X-Ray 3, 9 Echo Zulu. That's what you need to be putting into your sat nav. Hotel X-Ray 3, 9 Echo Zulu. Start time is 9 o'clock. First event, 10 o'clock. Finishes at 5 o'clock. Only £5 entry. Under 16s are free. Get yourself down there and support the one and only Giant Yorkshire Pudding. That's right. Our very own Joel Scholes will be competing in this strongman event. That's right. And his nickname is the Giant Yorkshire Pudding. And we support the Giant Yorkshire Pudding here at Super League Raw. So please do, if you're around Halifax this weekend, get yourself down to the Halifax Strength Unit and support the big man. Doesn't he look well? All he needs there is a bit of gravy, and he'd be absolutely delicious, wouldn't he? Kept that one quiet to many of the community, but yes, we wish him well, don't we, Lauren?
We do.
The big cuddly bear, it's Joel. Mr. Forth, I'm surprised he hasn't been getting you down for training, bit of lifting of Craig,
Well, I could do some deadlifting with me. I'll probably put his back out. Quite more heavy than what he'd be used to. So, yeah, all the best to Joel on that one. Good luck on Saturday. Hope you have a good day, mate. Absolutely
great. And of course, we'll keep you posted on that as the weekend goes on. Right, let's get to Super League. And of course, this is the bottom half of the table. Huddersfield Giants, of course, still at the bottom of the table. Hull FC now in 13th. Wow. Then it's the Castleford Tigers, and then the 3 promoted times, which we spoke about in weekly at length. Of course, the 3 promoted sides, Bradford, York, and Toulouse. Of course, Toulouse and York play each other this weekend before Lauren's Catalans there in 8th. Before we go to the top half of the table, Craig, I'll get your take on this. Of course, the 3 promoted sides sitting above 3 existing Super League sides. This, would you agree, this is going to cause a headache for the Rugby Football League in terms of the decisions they're going to make for next year?
I think it will. For most of us, we're probably all expecting, probably even the RFL was expecting them 3 teams to be rooted to the bottom of the table. And to be fair, that's probably arrogance from the Super League expecting that. And these 3 teams have turned up, and we've said before that they're not here to make up the numbers. They're here to compete. They're here to make an impact on Super League, and they're doing exactly that. So the RFL now will have a very difficult decision to make if they're going to only keep to 14 teams and they want to bring London up.
Completely agree. And Lauren, I hate to say this to you. I'll just put that back up again. But, depending on the wind this weekend, just depending on the wind, Toulouse aren't a million miles away from overtaking the Catalans Dragons.
I fully expect that they will.
Yeah.
I think St Helens are going to come out fighting this week, given the result last week. I don't know what the mentality is for both squads at the moment, and there's a lot of rumours circulating for both squads. So
Yeah,
I think Toulouse will do the job, and we potentially may fall foul of another loss again. So that table might look very differently this time next week.
Well, we will have to wait and see on that. Let's take a look at the top half of the table. Of course, Saints now down to 7th off the back of that incredible win from Toulouse last week, which means, of course, Lee Leopards sit in 6th spot. Then it's KR Warrington. They play each other this week in what arguably, on paper anyway, appears to be the tie of the round. Then it's Wakey, of course, in 3rd. The Wigan Warriors up to 2nd now off the back of that great win against Warrington at the Brick last week. And then finally, of course, the Leeds Rhinos continue to set the pace and standard at the top of the table. Right, let's start going through the rounds, and let's kick off with the Casford Tigers against the Leeds Rhinos. Of course, this is the game that will bring the curtain down on the round, and tail of the tape, as you would expect, 12th place in the league taking on first. You would expect a big gulf in terms of how these two are tracking statistically, but the thing that I draw your attention to here, Lauren, is the stars. The stars mean that they are the best in that KPI in the league, and in all the time I've been doing this show and Super League Raw Weekly, I can seldom remember a time where 18 rounds in, one team were leading so many KPIs, and it really shows how well Leeds Rhinos are playing.
Oh, they're fantastic, aren't they, this season? You know, they're so clinical. Last week, I don't even think they got out of 2nd gear against us. They were just going about the job, and, you know, everything was textbook. And I'm not shocked to see that they are sitting top, because they are, you know, they are just doing exactly what they're told, and they're so clinical. And Jake Connor's pulling all the strings and getting they're all pulling the weight, and I think that's the difference. Every player on the pitch is pulling the weight, and you know, they're out there to prove a point. They obviously want to go and win something this season, and good luck to them, because I think they'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. They've been absolutely wonderful. Of course, Jake Connor was our player of the month for June. Look, Craig, I mean, we're going to sit in 2nd. Of course, they'll have ambitions to go back to Old Trafford this year. It's a massive task. It would appear to me. It's Leeds and the rest thus far. There's still 9 games to go in the regular season and the playoff rugby league, which is a completely different brand of rugby league. We know that. But at this moment in time, Leeds Rhinos have been, well, almost unplayable at times.
They have been. This is a season that Leeds have really, really shined. Brad Arthur's finally clicked into gear with Leeds. The players are playing as they should be. They're doing exactly what they need to do, and they're showing to be just almost untouchable. But again, they are going to be playing the 2 teams that are immediately below them in the next 9 weeks, so that could have a dent. And both of those teams do have the potential, to quote Reggie, to put a scare on Leeds. But it's Leeds to lose now. I still think there's plenty of time left, but as Leeds just need to keep doing what they're doing, and they'll be getting that league leaders shield.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there. Well, I think the league leaders shield, for me personally, it's very hard to see anybody catching them for the shield. I think it would take a calamitous next 9 games for them to fall out of that reckoning. As for Castleford, like I say, we will put this up on the page when we're done tonight, so people can actually look at the graphic for those who are listening on the podcast. But like I say, from a Castleford perspective, they're a long, long way off Leeds in virtually every area here. That said, Lauren, last week, don't know what I'm doing now. Last week, Castleford, it was a stop-start game at Leeds, but they hung in there, and they give a far better. I mean, and that's been Castleford's Achilles heel. One week they've been competitive, the next week they've been diabolical.
They're consistently inconsistent, aren't they? And that's the only thing. I know, obviously, Ladies Tackle Talk, we discussed the game on Monday night, and podcast was out Tuesday. And, our Castleford supporter, Deb, felt a bit more hopeful given the performance that they put in, and, felt like the mentality was maybe, trying to change around the team. Will they go out and do anything this week? It's going to be hard, for a team that's trying to climb up the table. No team wants to play Leeds at the moment, do they, realistically? And they're going into the game already knowing that they're likely to lose. So it's whether they can keep the heads up or whether the heads go down and they they're just there to be there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, across the park, you know, there's no doubt about it. Across the park, Castleford are right up against it here. Right up against it. I think there's talk that Mapalangu might be back for this one this week. Lee coming to it in fine fettle. No major dramas for them, or we're not hearing that there's any dramas. Too much drama for them. We know Ryan Hall's out, and we know that Keenan Palacia is going to be out. Those are the two players that we do know will not feature for the Rhinos in this one. If Tyler Dupree's back on the field, it'd be his 150th appearance. James McDonald will be his 100th appearance in Super League. The interesting thing about this game, of course, they have played each other once already this year in round 4. Leeds 22-4 winners against Castleford, which, when you consider how well Leeds have been playing, Craig, that's not a landslide victory. I mean, you know, you consider some of the scores they put on other teams this year. That's not too bad from a Castleford perspective. And of course, they are at home this week.
Yeah, Castleford, to give them some credit, when they've been playing some teams like Hull KR and Warrington, they actually got absolutely trounced. And then a couple of weeks, I think they had 2 weeks on the bounce where they got 50 points put past them. They was going to play a Bradford, was expecting Bradford, who were on a bit of a run that week, to then do the number on them, and they absolutely demolished them. And then against Lee last week, I don't think anybody expected Castleford to do anything in that game. So being at home and probably not expecting to win might actually be in Castleford's favour, because they can play like they've got nothing to lose. They can play without the pressure because they know that they're probably not going to come away with a win. So they might end up putting, and when Castleford, of course, having that much smaller pitch, might actually go into their favour a little bit and limit on with Jake Connor with his kicking.
Well, absolutely. From a 40-20 perspective, I couldn't agree with you more. The last time that the Tigers got the better of the Rhinos, of course, was back in 23 at St James's Park at Magic Weekend, 26-24, in a really tight tussle. The last time they won at the Wombo 14-8 was back in round 5 of 2023. So, you know, quite a while back now since Castleford Tigers got a score over the Leeds Rhinos. I'm going to go. What am I going to go? I'm going to go Leeds by 24. What are you going, Lauren?
I'm going to go Leeds by 50.
50? She did this the other week, Craig.
And I was right.
She did this the other week.
I was right.
You were right. You know, I'm sure there's some spiritual stuff going on in Lauren's house. There's something very, very honestly. I'm not being funny, Lauren, but I'll tell you now, I'm never sitting next to you if you get that right, because there's something not right about your predictions. If you get that right, that is some prediction. That, Craig, where are you going?
I'm going Leeds by 40.
Hey, we're not a million miles away. Maybe you're underestimating them.
Maybe I'm just in a good mood where Castleford Tigers are concerned. I mean, after all, they have finally announced the worst kept secret in the world, that Robbie Mulhern's going there next year. That's been announced today. You know, like I say, that's been a long time coming, hasn't it? But anyway, there you go. So all of us going the way of the Leeds Rhinos on Sunday. Let's go to the Saturday fixtures, starting with Toulouse Olympique taking on York Knights. Now, this for me could be a really good game. We know Toulouse are in fantastic form. It's 9th against 10th. They're right next door to each other in the table, and not an awful lot between them statistically in terms of the tail of the tape. Lauren, as you're casting your eyes over a lot of statistics there, it is surprising how close they are. And actually, when you consider how well York, where everybody believes that Toulouse have been playing, how close York are statistically to Toulouse.
Well, they're very close, but, you know, as we've just said, we can see Toulouse are also the best at the moment for the 40-20 kicks, and also they've got the lowest penalty count in the competition, and if they can keep to that kind of discipline and not give away possession to York, I think they could be in with a real chance this week to have a third win on the bounce.
Yeah, of course, York already have that third win. They're going for 4 on the bounce at York. But yeah, you're right, 5-40-20 highest in the league, and 95 penalties only conceded this year for Toulouse Olympique. That said, Craig, we've got, if you cast your mind back to round 9, arguably one of York's best performances of the season, 38-14 win over Toulouse at home in York. So, like I say, last year, other than the grand final, they performed well against Toulouse. A brilliant win for them in round 9 this season. It's not. I think what both of these two sides have shown, Craig, this year is they'll stay in the battle. You know, they won't go away. And for that reason, I think it could be a tight game.
It could be a very tight game. I just hope that Toulouse actually start strong like they have been for the last couple of weeks, like they did against Saints and they did against Catalans. Because when they've shown that, they've been able to keep in the game very well. And of course, they did it against Huddersfield. York, they'll be on a lot of confidence at this moment in time. And going to Toulouse as well will be quite an achievement because they'll want to get the win over Toulouse on this one. Because again, this will be a game that they've both marked, being grand finalists in the Championship, newly promoted. This will be one that both teams will be looking for. And this is one I'd like to have seen that Sky had been broadcasting one for, because I think this could be with Wakefield and Warrington and KR, and this game they're going to be two absolute classic games to watch.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be an absolute belter, this one. I really, really do. Very, very close. Good players on both sides. Let's go to the teams. And actually, both of them come into this in pretty good nick, to be fair. There's a couple of absentees at Toulouse. I mean, a lot of the absentees for York Knights are actually not really absentees. They're playing for Newcastle, the likes of Lip and Tagaga and etc. They're over at Newcastle at the moment in that arrangement they've got with Newcastle. However, Toulouse are missing Rennie Macon in the centre. Stefani, who's been playing really well when he's been in the side this year, he's not there. No Cesar Rouge either. But that said, the form players at this moment in time, Lauren, where they're concerned, Ollie Ashell-Bott, Benjamin Laguerre, Joe Shorrock, Lacan, Hans and Jassom, those are in. And they, at the moment, are the pivotal players, aren't they, for Toulouse Olympic?
Absolutely. They're the ones pulling all the strings. And I think, then you've got the likes of Henry O'Kane, Taiyaki Chan, Palesi. You've got a lot of players in the back that are coming through and, using their strength and getting over that line. So I think there's going to be, and this will be a big scoring game for both sides. No doubt about it. I can see Toulouse coming away with this win. I think home advantage and the heat.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
At the moment.
But I said last week, Lauren, in normal British summertime, heat might come into this game, but it's fair to say these boys are acclimatised because of the weather we've been having in the UK. And I think that probably has took that a little bit away. But that said, Toulouse at the moment, I mean, what they did to St. Helens last week and, of course, the week before, the win they got the week before, you could only sit back and applaud. They've been very, very easy on the eye. We've been saying it all year. Isn't it funny? I mean, Craig, you watch the other podcasts like I do. I'm going to put it out there. Super League Raw, I've been saying probably since what? I'm going to say round 4, round 5, that Ollie Ashell-Bott should be in consideration for England. Everybody's caught up this week and are agreeing with us.
Yeah, we've been shouting for it on Hooter as well. Ollie Ashell-Bott, he's just fantastic to watch. He's such a great playmaker. And for a fullback as well last week to be a try assist of count of 5 for a fullback is that's halfback's situation, is that he's just such a phenomenal player. Again, kind of come from nowhere, or not seen to come from nowhere in the eyes of the Super League, and now we're all saying he should definitely be in the England team. And again, last week that was for Ollie Ashell-Bott. It was an opportunity to play against Jack Wellesby, who is in the England team, to say, well, hang on, you're the fullback, but look at me, and that proved a point.
Well, I think I would say Jack Wellesby's in the squad. He's a long way from the team at the moment. He's got. I mean, if ever a player needs to be flawless for 9 games, it's Jack Wellesby. I just don't see how he goes to the World Cup. I really, really don't. Certainly not when somebody like Ollie Ashell is playing the quality of rugby league that he is. Absolutely sensational. Now, look, guys, like I say, York are in good fettle as well in terms of the team selection going in week on week. Their big players are there, of course. But Shane's been incredible at halfback. I mean, wow, you've got to give Paul McShane so much credit. What a pro he's been, and he's still producing week in, week out, to his credit. Varney, of course, having a great season. I'm loving those players that have come up with York, the likes of Ollie Field. I think he's not letting them down. There's some really good performances in there this week. And, we know that all of the narrative around this game will probably, more than likely, just be all Ollie Ashell-Bott, and rightly so. But we're a little bit different here on Captain's Run. There's a little tussle in this game that I believe, you need to keep an eye on. because both of these two players are in great form and are doing great things in Super League. And those two players are Thomas Lacan and Cody Hunter. These two players, for me, are playing wonderful rugby league football this season. They're not the ones that are getting all the flowers, but believe me, they have been incredible. And of course, Cody was the man of the match when these two met in round 9. Cody Hunter that day was flawless. Cody Hunter's been in our team of the week on 2 occasions this year. That's how well Cody's been playing. Thomas is yet to appear. But when you look at these two players side by side, and I'll do this for the sake of the podcast, Lacan, 13 appearances to Hunter's 11. 4 tries to 5 in the favour of Hunter. 11 assists to 4 in the favour of Hunter. Tackle bus very close, 24-26. Again, Hunter in the lead there. Break 7-4. Again, Hunter. Both done 47 attacking kicks. 84 kicks in general play to 54. Again, Cody Hunter. More carries by 2 for Lacan with 103. And he actually makes, on average, more metres with 7. But, I mean, it's fair to say, and you know, I mean, you've been watching us long enough, Lauren, to know this. We like to shine a light on players that deserve to have a light shine on them, but they don't, because the superstars take the lion's share of build-up on the mainstream programmes. How impressed have you been, first of all, with Thomas Lacan this season?
It's exactly like you say, you know, he's very silent, but he's a workhorse, and he's going in and he's getting the job done. And, you know, I think the team don't function the way they do without him. I think he's an integral part of the team, and it's nice to see Sylvan giving out contracts to these players already, with a view of, you know, securing the future of Toulouse and making sure that this team can only get stronger and better. So yeah, Thomas Lacan's for me is an essential part of the Toulouse squad.
Yeah, I agree. And in the same vein, Craig, Cody Hunter, might be a player that you had very little knowledge of before 2020, and forgive me if I'm wrong, before 2026. Obviously brought over, played a bit of Newcastle at the start of the season. It took him a bit of time to acclimatise to life, you know, at York, but he's been given his opportunity now. And at the time, when you consider at the start of the season, Captain Leon Harris, Hingano, you know, in the opening rounds, looking good. And then all of a sudden now, it's Cody's spot and it's Cody's to lose. It's been an incredible 2026 thus far for this young man.
Oh, definitely. I was making notes watching the York and Hull game last week, and just remember commenting how good Cody Hunter had been. He's just really making an impact on the games now, and he's really showing his capabilities and his skill. Yes, I didn't know much about him before with the Championship, but he's definitely a player to watch now, and he's probably going to be a good investment for York to keep hold of for the future. Absolutely, no doubt about it. I think he's playing that well that, you know, we know that if York stay up in 20, and again that'll find itself in the press over the next couple of weeks. But if York secure their place in Super League in 2027, I think Cody's playing that well at this moment in time that Mark Applegarth will be looking and going, I need somebody to partner him. I would say he's not a threat. I think he's developing really well. He's playing some really good rugby league. And like I say, who'd have thought, you know, we're 18 rounds in, who'd have thought, and you know, I mean, Craig, you know, the painstaking research that goes into Super League Raw Weekly's team of the week. You know that we always select the right, I believe, the player that deserves to be in there, regardless of shirt colour, regardless of name. If they were the best in their position, that's who's going in our team of the week. At the start of the season, nobody would have thought that Cody Hunter of York Knights would have been in 2 team of the weeks, 18 rounds in. No one. Incredible. Yeah, nobody would have done. To be fair, like I say, with the Toulouse, York and Bradford, probably wasn't expecting many of them players to go into the team of the week, but they've just been showing that they've got this great skill and ability, these hidden gems in these newly promoted teams. And I think it was said on Weekly about instead of always just looking for Australia for these new players, start looking in the Championship because there's some absolute gems there.
Well, they have brought him over, to be fair, this particular player. But like I say, it's just been a bit of a slow start. Lauren, I've got to ask you before I ask you for we've got to have a bit of sport, Lauren, because that's what we do on Super League Raw. We have a bit of sport. We have a bit of genuine banter. You know, we don't, you know, that's what we do. Based on the quality of the rugby, are you a bit disappointed you're not a Toulouse fan this year over a Catalans fan?
Well, our house, we are a bit. We do follow them. You know, we know Sylvan. You know, we know a lot of the players. My little boy's, you know, very friendly with Ollie. You know, we spoke to him after Magic weekend with his boombox and told him, you know, he can play that well, but not against us. We had a laugh and a joke with him. You know, And obviously there's a couple of the lads that we've let go, you know, Cesar and Taki. So yeah, you know, we're always there, and you know, when they're in the UK or if we're in France, we'll always go and watch them and support them. So to see them doing well is great. Would I like to see Catalans doing a little bit better? Absolutely. But you know, hats off to them. They've come in, they're not bottom of the table, and you know, we're not having a repeat of 2022. They're flying high, and good luck to them.
It's like comparing a baguette to a barm cake at the minute. Anyway, that's by the by. That's by the by. Let's get some predictions. Toulouse, York. Which way are you going and by how many, Craig?
I'm going to lose by 18. I think the home advantage and the confidence over the last couple of weeks will just maybe steer them through a bit more from York.
Fair play. Same question, Lauren.
I'm going to lose by 13.
13.
I think we'll have a drop goal from Jake Sharrocks to secure it. I can see that happening. I think it'll be close. I think you'll have players like Deneve, Barnforth running riot, and you know, as he did, the ladies tackle talk went to watch the whole York game, and you know, had the opportunity to watch York do the thing. So yeah, I think York, you know, will come away the losers, but I don't think it'll be a walkover. I think Toulouse are gonna have to work and not go in overly confident on the back of last week's win and really get the Reds down from the first whistle.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, you know, in sport, in life, certain teams play well against certain teams. And at the moment, York have got a great track record against Toulouse in the recent past. There's no doubt about that. Great win at York, as I already said earlier in the campaign. And we mustn't forget, York are on a 3-game winning streak. So they, like Toulouse, they're not coming into this lacking confidence. They're coming into this game with confidence, which again, I think makes for a really interesting game. It should have been on the telly. I think this has got everything written over it. And again, when we just go back to this graphic, how close it is, you know, 68 tries for Toulouse, 64 for York. Look at the average for 21-19, average against 25-29. It just looks on paper that these two sides, they're next to each other in the league. They're so close to each other in terms of their KPIs. And yeah, I am going to go to lose. And the only reason I'm going to lose is they're at home. I think if this would have been the other way around, I'd have been very close to go, actually, you know, York at home, Toulouse with the travel, actually. But Toulouse are at home. Great. I mean, if they can't be on a high after going to St. Helens and creating history like they did last week, then, you know, it's time to give up, isn't it? And to be fair, they were absolutely exceptional. And again, it's always the case. The noise this week has been all about St. Helens because that's the story. But Toulouse were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. Just relentless, tenacious, foot to the throat, beautiful. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go 2 scores. I'm going to pull in 1 from yours, Lauren. I'm going 12. I don't see a drop goal. That's why. I'm going to go 12. I'm going to see 2 tries. And let's just hope that we see 2 sides that throw the ball about and really entertain us. And I think they will. I really do. I think they will. That is a game well worth tuning in for this weekend. Right. Let's now go to the MKM Stadium. Of course, it's going to be Hull FC taking on the Lee Leopards. The Leopards in great form, absolutely great form. But that said, they did have a really testing game last week against Casper Tigers, but they came through it, and that was the most important element of it. They come in on a 3-game winning streak. Hull FC come in on a 4-game losing streak. Very tight in terms of the for and against. Lee have not really, you know, blown anybody away yet this year. You know, they've been very, very close wins that Lee have gone. At some point, you do expect it's going to click. I thought David Armstrong last week on the wing was an interesting proposition for the Lee Leopards. But there's no doubt about it. You know, they scored a lot more tries than Hull FC this year, 73-50. There's a lot going for the Leopards in this game. It's starting to say, it feels to me, Lauren, like it's starting to settle down at the LSV. The Be The Roarers are starting to roar. And you saw FC at close quarters last week with the ladies at York. Did you see anything in that Hull FC performance that suggests that they, at home, could beat Lee Leopards?
No. And that pains me as, you know, a household that is half Hull FC as well. It was so lackluster last week. I think if we'd have played the reserves, they'd have played better. You know, they look slow, they look sluggish. It was all very textbook. There was no creativity. There was no strike. They were just 13 men on a pitch. They could have been out the stand. So for me, I even with the home support, I think Lee are going to smash it, and I think they're going to come away with a big score. I think it'll be a big scoring game.
Yeah, and again, we will put the graphic up on our socials over the course of the weekend. I did say a moment ago, Craig, that Lee haven't really fired, but they fired against FC at home, a 42-6 winning round 12. And if you'll remember, that was the game where Yamila Hanley was just incredible, to the point we were saying if he could replicate that week in, week out, he should go to the World Cup. That was the game that Hanley really did sparkle on the right edge, if you recall it. Some wonderful tries, also got assist as well. Do you see history repeating itself in this one?
I don't necessarily see the history repeating itself in this one, because Leeds do seem to struggle when they go to the MKM. There's been some very interesting games between Hull and Lee, but Hull can only seem to play well for periods of a game. They can't seem to recently play well for a full game. When Wigan went a few weeks ago, Hull FC were a very good team for about 60 minutes, but it was the last 20 minutes when they lost the game. I could probably see something similar happening to this one as well. I think Hull will up it, being at home. They'll have a bit of a home field advantage, a bit of encouragement from the fans. But then I just don't see them being able to keep Lee out, not with Armstrong and Lamb and Cook when he's playing, setting him up. And I think Hull will be relying too much on Zach Hardaker to maybe do something for him to defend. And that's why I think Lee will probably get the win. But I don't think it'll be an absolutely massive score. But I think Lee will probably take it in the last 20 minutes when Hull FC either switch off or tire out. Yeah,
it's a sad indictment what you just said there. I remember a couple of seasons ago when Leroy Cudjoe was playing so well at Huddersfield, and said, how as good as that is for Leroy Cudjoe, it's a very sad indictment for the people around him that Leroy was their best player at that age. And I'd say the same with Zach Hardaker. You can't fault Hardaker. Hardaker's playing out of his skin, and all credit to him. But the rest of that dressing room needs to take a long hard look at themselves. If Zach can put that much effort in, week out, and sparkle, Lauren, then there's a lot of other players in that dressing room who should be giving more.
Absolutely. I think, the wingers have not really turned up this season. Lewis Martin had an outstanding season last year, and I think we all thought Harvey Byron was going to come out and have a similar season this year. Lewis Martin's been so quiet, you sometimes forget he's even on the pitch.
Yeah.
I'm more excited to watch Dr. Tom Briscoe. And I know that's a running joke on our ladies podcast. But yeah, I'm more excited to see what Tom Briscoe can do than the young lads, because he looks like he wants to play. He's playing with heart. Whereas, as you say, they're relying on Zach Hardaker to be in every position and to do everything. Aidan Caesar's doing nothing. His kicks could be caught by kids. They're not attacking kicks. They're just kicks in the air. And now they're trying to offload other players. And I think it says a lot. And I think it shows the mentality maybe around the team that they're already kind of planning their exits.
To be fair, I've got to give Caesar his due. It was a good try he scored last week. I've got to give him due. But I agree, he's all-round play, absolutely. It's like he's got one foot on the plane to perhaps Catalans.
No. And no. And if you've seen what my comment that was picked up by one of the rugby posts, one of the rugby Facebook pages, where they were like, John Cartwright, welcome to Perpignan. I was excited for John, but if it means Jed, Aidan, and Amir come with him, he can go back right on the plane and go somewhere else. I'm sorry, we don't want FC's rubbish. We've got enough problems of our own. No.
Well, yeah.
And that's not just my views. That is the views of the fans in general, and obviously the Catalan Dragons supporter Facebook page shared the same views. The arm players that set us alight. If you said to me, "Okay, Kate Custer's coming over," I'd give him half a chance.
Over Borough?
Absolutely, he's a grub. He's a grub, and he's a penalty machine. I'd rather play Hugo Thiessen and stick with me French boys. I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
Amina Borough can go to Hull KR for me. I'm okay.
Well, Billy Ingram's actually got in the chat and said it's not Caesar today, it's Caesar the Dragon. Well done, Billy lad. Happy days. Anyway, let's get back to Hull FC against Lee for a minute. We'll come back to Catalan in a minute. And these are the squads, and of course, lots of players still missing for Hull FC. And the bad news for Hull FC is that Lockie Lamb's playing. He scored a try in each of the Leopards' last 3 games against FC. Of course, like we already said earlier in the season, a 42-6 win at the LSV. That was the day. That's probably been the most impressive. I think they were good against Warrington as well at Magic, but in terms of a full 80-minute performance, that was probably the one this season for Lee, 42-6 at the LSV. Of course, they also played each other in the Challenge Cup in the 4th round at 16-6, of course, to the Leopards. Who can forget last year's 22-all game? Hey, unbelievable that was at the MKM. And of course, last year at the MKM, 54-4 win for the Leopards. Of course, the eagle-eyed amongst people looking at the 2 squads will have already identified a lot of players that are missing there for Hull FC. You'll notice that Davy Litton is back and pictured, as to is Will Hutchinson and Ben Johnson. Lewis Martin drops out through head injury protocols. Callum Kemp and Jed Cartwright, of course, has also dropped out of last week's squad. As for the Lee Leopards, of course, no Tessie He's gone for the season, no Keenan Brand. Good to see Josh Charlie there again. And of course, the front row, still no Joffa Offeringawa. Joffa, yeah, that's right. Okay. I was thinking Toff, but that's Warrington's. Joffa, of course, for Lee, and of course, no Robbie Mulhern as well. But with the exception of that, I think Lee look in pretty fine fettle, very, very much like they did last week. Frankie Holton, we're being told, listening to the press conference with Adrian Lamb, is touch and his go. I don't think Frankie comes back for this one. I think they might just give him another week. But Craig, when you look at that Lee squad, the way they've been playing, the form that they're in, it's hard to look past them for this game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Lee have got too much in the tank for Hull FC at the minute. I can't see anything more than a Lee win, to be fair. And it could be one of these where it's either a very bit tight for a while or Lee just absolutely blow them out of the park right from the very off. It's, to be fair, it's also one of them with Frankie. I wouldn't risk him if you don't need to, not for this game. They're not playing the Leeds, they're not playing a Wakefield, they're not playing a Wigan. I would just say or a KR, I would just say just rest him because they don't need that extra risk. So yeah, I can't see anything more than a Lee win on this one. And I'm going Lee by 18.
Oh, you've already given me your prediction, Lee by 18. Didn't even ask you for it, and there it is. But yeah, I think it's plug and play, Lee. I think it'd be probably the starting 17 of last week. And of course, Jill's gone in the chat, super chatting. Buy the lady a drink. Hey, I'm all for sticking with French boys, says Jill in the chat. Keep it clean, please, ladies. Keep it clean. Anyway, but yeah, unbelievable stuff. Look, again, I'm going to go for narrative. I have to go for narrative. And there's only one narrative here in this game. And it's a tough one to find a narrative in. Because I, like you, Craig, I think I'm going to go bigger than you. I think the Leopards are going to put a score on this. I think Lee Leopards are going to win by, I'm going to go 24-26. I think it could be as high as that. Lauren, where do you see it?
I'd actually wrote down 18, so I'm bang on with Craig.
You're with Craig. So let's try and find the narrative, because 18, 24, 26, it's a comfortable win for the Leopards. I think the nice narrative in this one is friends and foes. Ethan O'Neill, of course, now playing for Hull FC. If he plays in his usual second row, I know they played him in centre as well, but I think they probably will play him in second row going into this one. And if he does, he'll come up against Owen Trout, which will be an interesting contest. I think Ethan O'Neill has got a lot of skill, very good in the air. This is how they look side by side. Of course, Trout playing 13 times, even O'Neill 9 this season. 2 tries for O'Neill, just the 1 for Trout. He's also got an assist as Trout. In terms of tackle bust, pretty even, 17-16 to O'Neill. Breaks even at 1 apiece. Tackles a lot more from Owen Trout. That's unbelievable. 370. I know he's played 4 games more, but even that said, that's a big tackle count. 374, missed 36. Even O'Neill, 172, missed 14. So again, in terms of statistically speaking, missed tackles to tackles, very, very close between the two of them. 106 carries for Ethan, averages 6.3 metres. 119 carries for Trouter, 6.1. I like a little contest, Craig. You know I do. I think if you're looking for a little bit of narrative, Ethan O'Neill going up against his former club, coming up against Owen Trout, could be good.
Could be very good. Obviously, Hull FC have got quite a few former Leopards in their squad, but that should be a very interesting one to see how Ethan O'Neill stands up against the Leopards, and obviously with Owen Trout as well. He's a phenomenal player, great in defence, great in attack. So yeah, it should be very interesting to see how Ethan O'Neill stands up to it, and see if he has a point to prove as well.
Absolutely. And Lauren, like you say, you've got a foot in the camp of FC. Didn't work out for Ethan at Leeds. Now on a permanent contract at Hull FC. Is that good business, do you think, for FC going into 2027?
Based on his performances so far, I think it has been a good bit of business. I think he's brought a bit of life into the camp. I think he's, showing that there's a bit of grit and determination, and the fact that he's so versatile as well is a bonus. As you say, he's playing centre when it's not his natural position and still scoring, and having that opportunity. It seems like a bit of breath of fresh air. So I think, good bit of business. I think we would have liked to, see a few more signings coming through the door in the next few weeks, because I think that's what the fans need. I think they need something to look forward to, because this season's abysmal.
Yeah, I think once my personal belief in terms of all clubs is there's a lot of weight in here in terms of what is happening with potentially the NRL deal. That's massive. And I think once something happens there, TV rights, NRL, etc., I think that is when we'll start to see some moving and some shaking in terms of the transfer business around the league. That's I think everybody's waiting for that. So the next couple of weeks could be really interesting.
It's all gone very quiet though, hasn't it? The NRL deals.
No, they're back in. No, they are. They're back in. So again, behind the scenes, I'm led to believe that there's conversations happening. How the TV deal's done in the NRL, those talks are, and the backwards and forwards has begun once again. I think there's a feeling that in the next month we should hear what is going to be the makeup of 2027, both in terms of TV deal and in terms of NRL and what their role is going to be going forward. It'll be very, very interesting. We'll see what happens there. Right. Arguably the game of the round. It has to be. Whether it delivers is another question, but on paper, it is the game of the round. And that game, of course, is Warrington Wolves hosting Hull KR. Both of these two teams, folks, we've got to be honest. At this moment in time, 4th and 5th in the league, but they've been very underwhelming, especially of late. Both teams, for me, really struggling at this moment in time. Warrington injuries, and I think KR just form. KR's really odd, and I'll get your views on them in a minute. The personnel's there. Yes, I know they've missed the likes of Hadley and Amon, and I get that. But when you look at the personnel on the field and what they achieved last year, it just feels a bit off. And, listening to some of the KR fans as well, they're feeling that something's a little bit off. It's a very, very bizarre. And it's the same could be said for Warrington as well. Don't get me wrong. 4th against 5th, both in average form, I would say, going into the game. Statistically, from a point scoring and defensive perspective, KR very much ahead of Warrington in regards to that. Goal kicking percentage is pretty close, 78 Warrington, 82 for KR. The missed tackles, though. I'm going to start there, actually. Let's start there, Craig. Missed tackles, discipline at KR this year. It really must be a concern for Willie Peters. 631. I think they're ranked 3rd or 4th in the league for missed tackles. That's just... Well, quite frankly, that's not grand final winning form, is it?
It's not champion winning form. No, it's disappointing because obviously KR last year there was phenomenal in defence. That's how they got them to the grand final, how got them as far as they needed to go. But this year it's almost like I don't want to speak too ill, but it almost seems like, well, we've done what we needed to do. Now we've done it. We don't need to do it again. But it's almost like they don't want to back it up almost. Whereas you just see this, like I say, the effort in defence seems to be going down, and these players, there's not much change in that KR squad. I know a few players have obviously left, and there's a couple move about, but not many. That core of that squad is still there from last year, and the dropping off tackles, and they're not getting up into it, and it's this defensive attitude at KR at the minute that is quite surprising from what we've seen from them from last year.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, mate. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, Lauren, you look at the Warrington stats there, errors lowest in Super League, 154, penalty count still sub 100, very, very good. But Byron, they get it wrong. They get it wrong. The worst discipline in terms of yellow cards in the league at 10. That ain't good enough.
No, absolutely. And we all know discipline wins games. It's got to be they've got to be spot on. And although the penalty count's low, it feels higher. When you watch them, it feels high. And even the lowest in the league for errors. When we went to watch them play Catalan, it felt like they were constantly making mistakes. I don't know what's going wrong on the pitch. Maybe they just stand out more when they're making them. I don't know. I don't see them turning over the whole KR squad this week.
No, we'll come to that in a mo. But I mean, Callum's saying about Bentley. I think Bentley's had 3, hasn't he? 3 of the 10 have been Bentley, I think.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I think it's 3 for James Bentley.
Yeah, James Bentley is joint top with Jack Welsby in Super League for 3 yellow cards. Jack Welsby takes the top though with a total of 4 because he received 1 during Challenge Cup rounds as well.
Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. So like I say, Bentley is the gift that keeps giving in terms of penalty. But that said, I do believe, and I said this on Weekly, sometimes he does get penalised because he's James. I believe that. And I said the same at Leeds, and I said the same at other clubs. Unfortunately, and he's created his own problem there. So that's all of his own making. I'm not saying that, but it's, certain players, and we've seen this through the years, certain players just get a reputation. And once they've got it, it's very, very hard for them to shake that reputation off. Here's an interesting one for you, Craig. Okay. Sam Burgess's worst win percentage is KR. He's played them 8 times and only won twice. That is by far and away his worst. The next one's about 40 or 44% Lee Leopards. He's him and conversely, Willie Peters has got a great winning record. Obviously, conversely, the other way. But I mean, like I say, KR have got the voodoo over Warrington, no doubt, and over Sam Burgess's Warrington.
Yeah, definitely. This is the game as well for which team responds better from the previous. KR, if it wasn't for Wakefield having those moments of indiscipline, probably could have been nilled at home last week. And sometimes when you've had a bit of a shaky bit of form where you're just scraping wins, sometimes it's that loss that is the kick up the backside that you need to get back onto it. And I think probably the same for Warrington last week, getting beat by Wigan's kids. Is that the kick up the backside? And is now which of these two teams responds better to that defeat to say, right, we need to step up now and get them back into gear. Willie Peters is a fantastic coach, and he's obviously done an awful lot with KR. And I just think for Sam Burgess now, he needs to find out why he can't undo what Willie Peters is throwing at him, why he can't seem to unpick KR very well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Let's show you the teams, Lauren. Here they come. These are the squads. Warrington will be happy to see the likes of Kai Taylor-Ray back in the squad. Joe Philbin also back in the squad as well. So a couple of returnees there for the Warrington Wolves going into this week as well. That said, you look at Hull KR, their squad looking very, very strong. Because Peteku, he's out due to his ban. But in the main, Hull KR look in fine fettle. Back comes Dean Hadley, back comes Tom Amone, back comes Artem Org. So I think of the two squads, it's advantage KR, you'd say, Lauren, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and especially looking at like Warrington looking like they're going to play Mark Sneed again. Obviously, Mark Sneed loves to play against Hull KR because, he is black and white, no matter what strip he wears. But I think the inconsistency of the halves playing together could be their undoing when you've got a consistent team for Hull KR turning up, and I think they'll just keep driving down the pitch, and I think it'll be a big scorer for Hull KR this game.
We'll get to that in a minute, is what I would say on that one. But yeah, there's no doubt about it. Hull KR will be feeling pretty chipper in terms of those squad numbers and who they've got to call upon. That said, and we'll get to KR in a minute, it's well and good having those players there. We'll get into their form in a little while. Before we do, let's take a look, Craig, at Warrington. And I think the wire key players for this game are these 3. Danny Walker, Ewan Irwin, and Ben Curry. These 3 players for me, they are the players. I think it's fair to say Danny it's not been having his best form recently. I think Ewan, regardless of Warrington win, lose or draw, he's looking a diamond of a player. And Ben Curry, for me, this season on both sides of the ball has been exemplary. And, of course, he's the club captain. These 3, for me, are going to have to be on really good form on Saturday if Warrington are to win.
Yeah, definitely. See, Ben Curry, he's been fantastic to watch this year, and he's really stepping up and he's really showing and leading the pack quite well with Warrington. And Erwin just continues to impress every week he comes on. You can just see the effort that he puts into it. It's good, obviously, this week that you've got Kai Taylor-Ray back as well. That can
maybe back, yeah.
So if he is playing, that could be a boost as well to have into your squad. And Danny Walker, he has been a good asset for you this year. I say last week as well, just thought Harrison had a real good game. I was actually quite glad when he brought him off at one point, to be fair, watching it as a Wigan fan, because I thought he was playing really well. So there's a lot of very high skill in that Warrington team that can take it to KR. It's just making sure they stay consistent and don't lose their heads.
Yeah, like I say, all three of those players, and again, these graphics will go up, but all three of these players, statistically very, very strong, but they are, for me, the key for Warrington this coming Saturday. I want to go back to Lauren, because you mentioned about KR and their ability to be selecting a consistent squad. But, you're hearing the noise coming out of KR that, they're a bit concerned about their squad at the moment in terms of how they are playing. And I think what's really interesting for me, we've got Jez Litton, Tyrone May and Mikey Lewis there on the screen. And statistically speaking, you look at those stats and you think, yeah, do you know what? They're having a good season, because the stats are telling you they're having a good season. Jez Litton, 15 appearances, 81 runs from dummy half. He scored 4. He's made 7 assists. This is a player that, of course, plays on average half a game because the interchange with the likes of Lawton, etc. Great tackle count, great efficiency, making 9.2 metres for every carry that he makes. You can't knock that. Superb. You then go to Tyrone May, who for the first 9 rounds of Super League was being touted as a potential man of steel. 4 tries, 20 assists, 6 breaks, 45 tackle busts, attacking kicks 34, kicks in general play 46, carries 223, average meters 4. And then you've got Mikey. Mikey, 17 appearances, 16 tries, 14 assists, 16 breaks, 70 busts. He has made 20 errors. I'm going to come back to that, and 13 penalties, 241 carries for 6.4 meters. But the thing that I want to draw your attention to now, Lauren, is we've given that on paper there, it looks really good in terms of these key players. Because if these three play, if these are on form, it's hard to contain KR, really hard to contain them. But what's really interesting is in the last 4 games, Mikey Lewis has scored a try and made 1. In the last 4 games, Tyrone May has scored a try and made 2. If you factor that into those statistics, that's well down on what's come in the first 14 games in terms of run rate. They have absolutely, I'm not saying going off the ball because they're still producing, but in terms of the run rate that they were running at, it's severely down. You then go to Jez Litton. Jez Litton in the last 4 games, and this is quite extraordinary. He's only made 1 assist, which is madness. He's only had 2 tackle busts. He hasn't had a single clean break. Can you believe that?
And to be fair, I think, Jez Litton doesn't get the applause that he really should. Everyone talks about Mikey Lewis and Tyrone May, but you notice when Jez Litton isn't on the pitch, so that is shocking that his performance has been so low. You wonder what is going on in camp if we've got all the spine kinds of not gelling all of a sudden, because they've not had injuries, they've not been missing particularly for long periods of time. So what is going on? Is it just Willie Peters has given up because he knows he's going? Is it the coaching? Is it the teams that are unsettled because he's going and they know they're getting someone else? We're just guessing, but it's nice not to see Hull KR riding high, I'm not going to lie.
Well, that bit of bias, of course. But I think for me, I said right before a ball was passed in anger, Craig, at the start of the season, it's one thing to win trophies. And don't get me wrong, nobody's ever going to take that away from them. They've got it. They've got those trophies in their history, happy days. But great teams, dynasties, they build on that. And it's, in any sport, they always say retaining is harder than winning, because everybody's aiming for you. And then you yourself have got to get yourself back up to go and do that hard slog again. Because let's be fair, it's been a heroic feat that the Robins have put in to win 4 trophies on those 4 trophies on the spin. That was heroic for a team that without the pedigree, you've got to remember when Wigan won the World Club Challenge, they'd already started picking up trophies again. Same with St. Helens, same with Leeds. From a standing start without any silverware to go and win 4 on the bounce was impeccable. But then to get yourself up both physically and mentally to go and do that again, that is some challenge. And there's been talk, Craig, and you're close to KR, one of your best mates is a KR fan. There's a lot of talk around the KR fans that they believe the players are looking tired. I mean, you go and watch quite a bit of rugby at Craven Park. What's your view on what you've been seeing this season?
I think it could be a little bit that they're starting to look a bit tired. They have had that very hectic start to the season. They've had obviously the trip to Vegas. They've had the World Club Challenge game. They had a lot of away games, including 2 trips to France, I think, in the very early stages. And at some point, and of course the Challenge Cup run. So at some point, that is going to catch up with them. And then of course they've got the 3 and 10 coming up as well, which is going to hit them even harder. So I can see why they could be starting to look a bit fatigued. KR don't seem to rotate the squad as much as other teams do. The don't seem to have, they've had a few more injuries this year, but they don't seem to have as many. So they're not bringing a lot of the young players in. I don't know if that's from when Willie Peters back in 2024, I think it was, rotated a lot of players out and there's once bitten, twice shy. But it could also be a thing that when you do win a trophy, you put yourself out there, you put yourself on the pedestal. And that's when teams start looking and going, right, you're the team to beat. This is how do we play you? And now our team's now starting to figure out this is how you start to beat Hull KR. This is, do you keep Michael Lewis tied up? Do you keep Jez Litton targeted? And then does that wrap KR up a little bit more? So it could be that teams are now, because KR have put themselves on the pedestal, they've all played them once this season. They're now going into the second fixtures against them, and they're now thinking, right, I know how to play you now because I've seen how you've played before, and we're not taking it as much as a surprise.
Well, what I've seen, Lauren, where KR are concerned, and you tell me if I'm wrong, rugby league is a pretty straightforward sport, and it's what makes it so compelling at times. But when you look at Wakefield, Wigan in the Challenge Cup final, the 2 games that they played against Leeds, the pack have been dominated. And we've just talked there about the flair players. And we all know this. If you're playing behind the beaten pack in rugby league, the flair players have got it on. Every now and again, and that can go against the grain. We know that. A back can have that game that just completely evaporates all the bad that's going on in the middle of the field and just take it by storm. I mean, how many times has Bevan French done that at Wigan, as an example? But at the moment, I'm seeing that when teams really get into KR down the middle, really impose themselves on them, it's taking them right off the rails.
Yeah, and they kind of look a little bit lost when that happens. They just look like there's no flair, there's no strike. And you tend to see them just running side to side. We've not seen the likes of Tom Davies doing his normal run down the wing, because teams know these players now. They've watched them do it last year, and it's exactly like you say. It's like they've marked them out the game. And if you take the big players out the game, the others are just floundering in the middle, and they're just, nothing's happening. So I don't know whether people have just got wise and they're using them video sessions and look properly analysing the work rates and how they're passing, and because we all know you can watch certain players and they prefer to pass to the right, so they all target the right. When Leeds have played them, they've just made sure that line has been consistent. There's been no gaps. There's no way for the likes of Michael Lewis to have that flair to go and sidestep. So I think it's good business on other teams' part. They're obviously doing the homework. Hull KR need to come up with a new plan if they want to climb the table. They need to go back to the basics and relook how their game plan looks and maybe mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Aidan Hodgson and Jill in the chat talking about exactly what we're talking about. Some players want to achieve something. That's it. They can't get themselves back up. That's it. They're done. Jill on the other side said it should be galvanising them. They are the champion. They should be swaggering. They should be, kicking on. It's a real interesting dynamic. We're talking here, Craig, about down the middle. And I think for me, this is why this particular battle is so important on Saturday. Liam Byrne, Tom Amone. Tom's due to be back. very, very close statistically. And both of these two, right off the bat, are going to set a tone. And what we know about, and it happens in every game, that first hit up, whoever imposes themselves, it sends a message out to the other 12 and the ones on the bench, we're here to play. And these two players have that. They have that distinction, they have that honour of setting a platform and saying, right, we're up for this today, let's go. And I think, whichever of these, and of course not being disparaging to the likes of, Jesse Sir, and of course who's got his year extension, and of course Jimmy Averson and whoever else is in the front row. But more often than not, these are the two that take the ball in early doors. These are the two that get the work done. And I think whoever wins this arm wrestle could set a tone for the rest of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I was gutted when Bernie left Wigan. Really liked him. He's a really good player. You always see him put the effort in. Never takes a backward step. Tom Amone, again, he's exactly the same. He's like a bull. He'll just go down in it and he'll take it all on. I think as well, it's that mentality. Whoever wins out of this two, we will, as you say, will back up the whole squad. They will feel empowered by which one they know that can go through the middle. And I think with the defensive effort for both of these, they're nearly identical as well. So these are going to be two players that both teams will have to keep the big eye on. And it should be a fantastic clash when these two go head to head on it, because it should just be an absolute thrill, because they're both giants of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, Lauren, Warrington are very, very fortunate going into this weekend due to points difference that it's highly unlikely they're going to drop out of the top six. That's not going to happen, not this week anyway. But I am going to ask you, and I'm going to go KR with you because, you've got that little bit of distinction with FC, and I'll leave Warrington for Craig for obvious reasons as well. If KR lose this game on Saturday,
yeah,
based on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, the noise and all the rest of it, how bad a loss could this be for KR? For the fans, for the players? Because it just feels at the moment, and I'm going to ask the same question, Warrington with Craig and me, both clubs are in the same position as far as I'm concerned. What could a loss mean to KR this weekend if they were to lose this?
I think the loss of that morale within the team, I think we'll start to see them just fall down the table. And I think they'd be lucky if they're still top six near the end of the season. Because if they can't be, after coming off a loss to Wakefield, who again, were flying high, and hats off to them, they need to come out and they need the support of the fans, because the fans were so disappointed last week. There's a few Hull KR fans on the podcast, and they don't recognise the team. They're a shadow of themselves, and I think they need to get back into that winner's mentality, and they need this to kind of keep the heads up. It's all good and well going out and beating your lower teams. A win against Huddersfield doesn't mean the same right now. I know it's points on the table, but everyone's going out and beating Huddersfield. It
is an important
contend with people, contend with the top six, and be able to hold their own, and it'll be quite telling as to whether they can do that.
Yeah, I think they've got enough of those lower teams still to play. And I do think KR finishing the playoffs. At no point am I saying I think KR, but I think, like with you, it's that confidence, it's that repetition, that mental element of we're in the grind here. We've got the numbers of the teams above us. We're playing good rugby league, and at the moment they're not. And like you say, they need some top six scouts, of which Warrington would be, just to get them going again. Because at the moment, it doesn't feel like a grand final winning team. James Scutton in the chat. Hello, James. Welcome to Super League Round. I hope you're enjoying Captain's Run, and thank you very much indeed for your comment. Let's bang you on screen, sir, no less. A big problem with KR is the game plan revolves so much around Dean Hadley. So when he's missing or leaves the game early through injury, we seem to have no plan B. And that, again, Craig, is a sad indictment. Great, I agree, Dean Hadley, great player, absolutely. But this is a 4 trophy winning team. It shouldn't revolve around Dean Hadley, should it? It shouldn't.
Not at all. Champion teams don't rely on one player to win them things. They don't rely on one player to break the line or anything else. When you start doing that, that's when you're going to get beat, because then if fans know that, the opposition know that. Yeah. So you need to be able to compensate when you've got a key player missing. And it's just such a shame that, like I said, Dean Hadley is a great player, he's a great work ethic. But again, as we saw in the Challenge Cup final, he goes off early. KR struggled, and then there was a couple of weeks ago when he took another injury, another big game, and again KR seemed to really struggle that one against Leeds. And this is where you need to really start thinking. You need that next man up mentality of go, well, if something happens to him, who can step in and fill his boots? They have got some players in there in KR, but again, like I say, if you're going to miss someone like Tom Murn and you're going to miss someone like Dean Hadley, if they're both missing the same game, then you've got to be able to have who's next to fill those boots.
And of course, they've been hindered with the Pangai Junior incident, etc., where that's concerned. But great comment. And I'm going to ask you the same way Warrington are concerned. I mean, look, Warrington at the start of the season looking good, injuries a bit, and again, doesn't feel right. Warrington just doesn't feel right at the moment. On the field, the performances seem to have dropped. At the start of the year, they were being brutal, being the likes of Castleford by a street, but then they've had opportunities against. I mean, for example, Bradford at home that you put in a similar category to Castleford, but they struggled. They struggled against Hull FC. So it's that extreme. If you're going to use benchmarks in terms of the current league standings, where Castleford are, Hull FC, and Bradford are, all of those games being played at the Halliwell Jones Stadium, they beat Castleford ruthlessly, but really struggled against Bradford and really struggled against Hull FC. And both games were poor, in terms of standard. No doubt about that whatsoever. If Warrington lose this, and again, I think they've got enough lower placed teams to remain in the six, and I do believe that. But at no point have I said that they're going to win a grand final anyway this year. But from a Sam Burgess perspective, what would a loss to KR mean for him?
This is now, for Sam Burgess, this is a test of his coaching skills, because if Warrington lose this game, he's now got to try and pick them back up and get them back into that winning mentality. And I know you've had key injuries. I know you've had some players missing. Obviously George Williams' injury was shocking, and it's really hurt Warrington. But he's then got to find some way to get some consistency going, and swapping and changing your halves every other game or every game is not going to help him do that. So he needs to start working on that. But then he needs to get that. He needs to get that winning mentality back into Warrington that was there at the beginning of the season, and find out why is this mentality gone. What's caused Warrington to step down from what there was in the position and start playing with the hearts again. And if it is because they need some talisman player, well, and it is George Williams, well, what they're going to do next year when he's down under.
I think it goes deeper than the Williams injury. If I'm being honest, I do. I think I can't put my finger on it myself, but I agree it is a test. And of course, next up for Warrington after this week is Leigh. They lose to Leigh, and they will be sixth. And then depending on what goes on, I mean, I think Saints now are looking like for the first time in their history they're not going to finish in the top six. I mean, when we get to their squad in a minute, oh dear Lord, good luck with that. But and so maybe through circumstance, Warrington and the rest probably might not have too much to worry about in terms of cementing the top six. But in terms of being competitive, Warrington look a long, long way off, as do KR. And that's what makes this game absolutely fascinating. Lauren, you've already told me you're going KR by how many?
24.
What would that mean to Sam Burgess, Craig, if Lauren's right?
I think that's a very big question of where is he next year for me. If that was to happen to lose at home by that amount, he definitely needs to pick himself up now and think what's going on, and really consider his future and consider how he's talking to his team and what he can use to inspire them. Having said that, I think KR will probably respond better to last week's defeat, but I'm thinking on about 12. I think it'll be a quite tight game.
I'm going in the middle. I'm going 16. I think KR win. I actually think, for all of, and it's right we critique KR. They're the champions. If you can't critique the champions, something's wrong. You've got to hold them to account. At this moment in time, these are the champions that are not playing as champions. Something just doesn't seem right. But I just get a feeling this week. that they're going to spark. The spark's going to hit. And I just think they're going to look a lot better on the eye. I could be wrong when I say that, but of the two, who have I got more confidence in of putting in a performance that perhaps gets the rest of the league going, okay, this could be interesting as the season goes on. It's probably KR, and that's why I'm going KR by 16. But yeah, very, very interesting indeed. Right, okay. We now move on to where we're going to move on to. We've done that. Let's move on to Wigan. It's Wigan. It's Wigan against Huddersfield. Here it is. And look at the odds: 1-9 on the Cherry and Whites, 11-2. The Huddersfield Giants. Huddersfield, of course, on a shocking losing streak. Wigan on a brilliant winning streak. I mean, the tail of the tape says it all. It should be a very comfortable Wigan Warriors win. But we can't leave it at that. We can't leave it at that. It'd be too easy to jump straight to a prediction, because we did this a few rounds back, didn't we? And what happened? I'll tell you what happened. This happened. What a performance from Huddersfield Giants. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a bit of a different team that they're going to have out this week, because, of course, Adam Clune was a big part of the reason why Huddersfield won. But, Craig, I'm not going to come to you because I don't want to give you nightmares, so I'm going to go to Lauren instead. Lauren, when you look at that graphic, it is absolutely unbelievable. One, where Huddersfield found themselves in the league and what happened on this day. Because when you look at that possession, 59-41, an 87% completion rate for Huddersfield, 75 for Wigan, it's just unheard of. 10 more completed sets for Huddersfield in the game. Play the balls in the opposition's 20, 38 Huddersfield, 21 Wigan. I mean, you'd be forgiven for doing an old dog, if Wigan were Huddersfield, then Huddersfield were Wigan, and you would be absolutely. You'd think that this graphic should be the other way around, in terms of it wasn't just the result, Lauren. It was the dominance of Huddersfield this day. They were absolutely foolproof for me. Now, the big question is it possible that they could replicate that? Highly unlikely. But, we've got to have a narrative on the captain's run. It'd be rude of us not to. They were very impressive at the brick, but does that go against them, because Wigan will be still stinging from it and they'll want to put things right?
It was very uncharacteristic, wasn't it, for Wigan to lose, especially to a team like Huddersfield Giants. Great for the Giants. I'm sure it boosted morale for a week until they lost again. But, yeah, Wigan won't want to lose twice to them. And even with the kids, Matty Pete will be drilling them hard this week. And I think the kids will want to come out and put things right. We're going to carry in a few injuries, but Huddersfield don't look like they're turning up half the time anyway. So I don't know, if that'll make much of a difference. I think the kids have got a bit of fire underneath them and a bit of spark. So, and after last week where they were all scoring for fun, I think they'll go out and do it again. I think this will be a big win for Wigan.
Fair enough. Now, Craig, you're having nightmares looking at that. Now the big question is here: is Craig going to do the traditional? It's going to be a tough game, and just edge his bets a little bit. We've seen Craig do that a few times in his time, as we've seen other people do that a bit in their time. Or are you going to actually put your colours to the mast, and after the last week's very, very good and strong performance against Warrington, say, no, actually this week, Wigan are going to show Huddersfield no mercy and get the job done? Which way are you going to go, Craig?
I'm going to go for definitely. I'm backing my boys. I'll always back my boys. Obviously, that was Wigan's first defeat of the season, was this one. And an absolute shock. Huddersfield do appear to be our bit of a bogey team. In the last 4 times we played them, 3 times last season, obviously, we was trailing at half time every single game. And obviously this game we was trailing again at half time. So Huddersfield do seem to start strong against us, which is what Matty Pete will be very, very aware of. So this is something where they'll want to go out there and set a benchmark. Obviously now Huddersfield's the only team we've not beaten so far this season in any other competition. So this is Wigan's chance to go and really prove a point. So I'm looking forward to going to this game to cheer on Wigan, but I don't think it'll be the absolute cakewalk that people are expecting, because Wigan seem to always struggle against Huddersfield for some unknown reason. Seems a bit of a bogey team.
Right, fair enough. Lauren, which way are you going and by how many?
I've gone Wigan by 28.
Ooh, 28 to Wigan. Which way are you going, Craig? You're going a few blowouts you this weekend, Lauren.
I like to go big.
100% you do. 100% you do. No doubt about that whatsoever. Craig?
Obviously, I'm back in Wigan. I'm going by 24. I don't like to usually go over the big one when I pick Wigan, because normally when we do that, we end up struggling or only just scraping a win like I did against Hull FC. So I think we'll have enough in the tank to get a comfortable win there against Huddersfield.
Yeah, let's just have a quick look at the teams. From a squad list perspective, no Adam Swift, he's gone down injured again. And what's quite interesting, you probably haven't seen the pre-match press conference with Jim Lennon, but he was asked about the Adam Swift signing a new contract, and he knew nothing about it. Now, if that's the case, again, I just shake my head in terms of what goes on at Huddersfield, because how can a head coach, if that contract has been signed and he looked as though he didn't have a clue what he was talking about, if that has been done without the coach's knowledge, wow, what is going on? And I would say, I love Swifty as a player. I really, really do. But his injuries are really catching up on him. So, yeah, that was an interesting one, without doubt. Like I said, I do think they're going to miss Adam Clune. Adam Clune isn't there. Of course, Tom Burgess, he's gone for an operation, we're led to believe. But, yeah, I mean, you look down the list, it is what it is in terms of a Huddersfield Giants squad this week. And again, from a Wigan perspective, it's pretty plug and play from the team that played against Warrington. There's not an awful lot of difference there in terms of the Warriors team. We've actually got in there, typical Wire fan, Dave, having a go at the Warriors. Come on, Craig, back. When did I have a go at the Warriors? Did I just have a go at the Warriors?
No.
I can't remember having a go at the Warriors. What did I say about the Warriors? Is it because I've reminded you lost against Huddersfield? So I've actually took a piece of history and presented it, and that's having a go. No, it's just bit of
history.
Yeah. I just said a great win against Warrington. So if you're going to call, I did say that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Great win against. I thought I did. Wow. Anyway, Jill's sticking up for me. I'll just leave it for Jill. Jill's in there. In Jill we trust. She'll sort it out. Go on, Jill. I'm gonna go Wigan. I've got to go Wigan on this one. How can you not after last week? Can it be as impressive? Can the youngsters? I mean, obviously, Jay Field being back's a big bonus. Let's be honest, at fullback. And I think interesting. Do you put Cartwright on the wing? Do you think, Craig, based on his performance, or would you leave? It was young Douglas, wasn't it? Was it Douglas? It was young.
It was Douglas on the wing. Yeah, I would probably move Cartwright to the wing because he played very well.
No, it's Daniel. It was Austin Daniel.
No, it's Daniel. Yeah, Daniel's.
Douglas was saying. Yeah, I knew it started with a D. So Daniel on the wing. Would you put Cartwright there? Would you put Daniel on the wing?
I'd probably keep. I'd probably move Cartwright there. To be fair, I think he had an absolutely fantastic game last week, and it'd be hard to drop him when he got man of the match in the game as well to not play him. So yeah, I would move Cartwright onto the wing. The problem will comes, I think, when Marshall's back. He might be due back in the next couple of weeks as well. But say in that young team as well, Shea O'Connor, I thought he's been absolutely phenomenal since he's played against Saints and then against Warrington last week. He was absolutely phenomenal. So he's a really good big unit. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play again and going up against the Huddersfield pack.
Yeah, they need to start calling him Seamus. WWE use Seamus's theme tune for O'Connor. You know what I mean? Just saying. But no, do you know what? Absolutely. We like the likes of Delaney have come through over the years. When these new prop forwards come in, Harvey Hill's another one, of course, now at FC. Well, yeah, there's something about him. He doesn't take a backward step. He looks a really. He doesn't look out of place, which is the biggest compliment you can give him. He looks. He's done really well. Can they go and back up? I think, and again, we're going to learn something about the mentality of these kids, because they've just gone and got a major scalp over Warrington that they probably weren't expecting, to be fair, but they have. They've got a lot of plaudits for that. The question is this week, can they go again? Which, I'd suggest they will. I think we can win. But can they be as good? It's a big question. It's a big question. I think Wigan win. Scoreline 16 again, maybe 16-18, something like that. I'm going to go Wigan, but it's certainly not going to be what Aid Hodgson said, and that's Huddersfield by 70. Anyway, let's get to the next game. We're running out of games at a pace, but this is good stuff. Right, let's get into another massive game. St Helens taking on the Catalans Dragons. This means absolutely nothing. So we're just going to put this up here and say, yeah, they're 7th and 8th in the league. They're both in pretty average form. And on paper, it looks pretty close in terms of how they're tracking this season. However, let's jump straight to the squads. Lauren, that's a big problem for St. Helens all of a sudden, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, they're missing a lot of players. You know, they're carrying a lot of injuries. St. Helens, we're missing some. Well, we're missing the likes of Ben Garcia. He's a big loss in the middle for us. I just don't know whether. Honestly, I think it's going to come down to mentality for both teams. I think we're both in the same boat in terms of we're coming off the back of multiple losses. Morale's quite low. You know, Saints will have had to read all the bad press all week following the loss to Toulouse. You know, the social media was, obscene at times. So I'm sure the players will have gone on a bit of a social media blackout. Catalan Dragons really need to turn up. And I'm hoping that, they will have had time to watch that game, know that it can be done, and come in with a little bit of confidence that, we've still got a lot of our first team players around the team and we can go in and do a job. But we don't play well at Saints, and that seems to be a trend for us. We can beat Saints at home, but going to Saints themselves, we tend to have bad performances, the Challenge Cup being the most recent one.
Yeah, it's I mean, on paper, I've just looked. Owen Dagnall's in that squad. He's got no chance of playing at the weekend. He's gone with an ACL. I'm not seeing things here, am I? That does say Dagnall.
Yeah, it does say Owens.
It's the wrong. Yeah. Is that right? Am I missing something here?
That's Toulouse's. Says from Toulouse. They've got Toulouse's.
Oh yeah, it's last week's squad. That
is that last week's. My apologies. Yeah. I'll go and find this week's. It's still bad. I mean, I'll go and find this week's. I've made. I was just looking at it then, going, that can't be right. That can't be right. But the thing is here, Craig. Right? Look, on paper, even when we get the right squad of St. Helens in a minute, which I'll go and get, on paper, Catalans should absolutely destroy St. Helens. Should absolutely destroy him. But St. Helens should have beat Wigan. Warrington should have beat Wigan on paper, and it's an opportunity for these young St. Helens players to, I'm going to use the word, show identity.
Yeah, well,
you're just wanting another shout out on Rugby.
Well, it's all love. It's all love. I don't do name calling. I just show love. Go on, carry on, mate.
I think, it's that finding identity, isn't it, for St. Helens? Which, again, a lot of them errors, that's not St. Helens. St. Helens, they've got a lot of, they seem to be lacking their usual flair. Catalans last week, they played Leeds. Leeds are on fire. They stopped Siervo from scoring. They kept Leeds down to 28 points, which is a big achievement when you think about it with playing Leeds Rhinos. I know they can't really say that Leeds, they say, didn't really get out of second gear, but well done for Catalans for stopping them from scoring as many tries as they did. But I think St. Helens could be in trouble here. I think Catalans will feel more inspired going, especially after what Toulouse did last week. It shows that St. Helens can be vulnerable quite easily as well. So maybe this will inspire Catalans as well to go and put a bit of a number on, because if there is disarray at St. Helens, then this is maybe Catalans' opportunity to take advantage of that.
Yeah, we've now got the right squad. My apologies for Saints. Wellesby, Robertson, Saylor, Sivan Host, Shorrocks, Burns, McDonald, Douglas, of course, will play on the wing. Davies. We've also got can I hardly say it? It's Alfie Sinclair. Good player, Alfie Sinclair. Seeing Alfie Sinclair at reserve and academy level for Saints. Really good player. I think he's a Warrington lad, actually. I think he might be a Warrington lad. I can't remember, but I know he's a really, really good player. Humphreys as well. Hastings, Saluka Fafita, and then we've got kid after kid: Evans, Matagi, Cartwright, Campbell, Keeler, Marsh, and McGann. And McGann's definitely a Warrington lad. I went to college with his mum. So a lot of kids there. And this is why I say, Lauren, on paper, this should be a cakewalk. It really, really should. But it's your Catalans Dragons.
And watching last week, obviously we had a debutant on the pitch last week. You know, Eden Rogers-Smith came in full force. So we think if he can link up with, you know, a couple of the other lads, Bousquet, Josh Allen, you know, and put that pressure on down the middle. On paper it should be an easier game. I just don't know how easy, and I'd love to be a bit more confident about my team at the moment, but morale and mentality are so low. It's I'm a bit nervous about going tomorrow. You know, and we don't travel well in numbers anyway, so there'll be 8 of us.
And here's me winding Craig up over Huddersfield. Go on. What number are you putting on it?
I've gone Catalan, but only by 12.
My God, the amount of big scores you've given us tonight, and you're only giving Catalans 12 against Saints in that team.
I'm a realistic girl.
Wow. Craig, what are you going?
I'm going Catalans by 10. I think Catalans will just have enough in it. I'm good. I think Saints, they will have to respond. Otherwise, Redville will have a meltdown, but they will have to respond. And I think Catalans, they'll go in a bit more confident than this and say they've got the players on the pitch that can do it. And I think it will be a tight game. I think, but Catalans will just edge it.
Catalans by 24 is where I'm going. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think it will be. I'd hope it'd be a bit tighter than that. But I just think at the moment it's like the train has left the station. It's just gaining more and more speed where St. Helens is concerned. But it'd be rude of me not to talk about Jackson Hastings. It would be rude of me not to talk about Jackson Hastings. The same Jackson Hastings that is deserving of his shirt number. Let's go there. He's made only Jake Connor has assisted more than Jackson Hastings in Super League this season. I'll just put that out there. 23 try assists in a St. Helens team that has looked, I don't know, a fiddle short of a violin. Let's be crystal. And he's done 23 assists, 2 tries. Does he have the odd dummy spit? Yeah. Put him in a good team. He purrs. Those are great stats. Great stats. 49 kicks from 65. Ranks up there with the likes of Reece Martin and Jake Connor for goal kicking efficiency this season. So my question would be, if Jackson Hastings wasn't at Saints this year, where would they be in the table? And with that, we'll move on. Right, let's move on to Bradford and Wakefield. Trinity, of course, the teams are in. We'll have a look at those in a few minutes' time as we start to wrap up Captain's Run for another week. What a great discussion. This has been great company as always. The both of you really enjoying our chat tonight. Wakefield Trinity up against Bradford. Now, look, we're all impressed with Bradford. We're all impressed with all of the teams that have come up. But Wakefield come into this game, for me, they've been playing very, very well indeed. No doubt about it. Bit of an interesting one, Craig, in that Jowett has been dropped to reserves this week. And Darryl Powell has said, prove that you're worthy of playing for the club, which, you know, wow. I mean, that again, that takes strength of character. You know, Jowett, for me, we all think Jowett on his day is a good player, but there's been talk of him moving on. He was supposed to be going to Castleford. You look at what Castleford have done in terms of recruitment. I think it's unlikely he goes there now. All's not well with Max Jowett, it would appear.
No, I've been quite impressed with Jowett at times as well, but I don't think he's been as good as he was last year. I think there's been a little bit of a drop-off. So unless there's something going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to, and of course there's any Trinity fans out there that would let us know. But it's a bit of a shock for him to go and drop Jowett for this trip to Bradford tonight. Unless Paul's feeling a bit more confident because it's Bradford, would he have done it if he was playing a St. Helens or a Warrington or a Wake or a Leeds? So yeah, it does go to show though that you've got a coach there that's not afraid to drop somebody and basically say that he is the person in charge of that club, and he keeps the dressing room in check as well with the coach.
The tail of the tape points towards Wakefield. I think we'd all agree. Wakefield go into this absolutely as the favourites in just 40 minutes' time. Now, the teams are out, so we don't have to look at the squads for this one. I'm going to replace that, and I'm going to put the actual teams that have been selected for tonight's game. Here they are. So there you go. They are the sides that have been selected for tonight's game. And as you can see there, the Bradford team is going to be Aikens at fullback, who's having a steady season, I would say. Wynne and Ryan on the wings, Armitage and Wonga Blake, who's been, for me, brilliant this year for Bradford. Absolutely superb, no doubt about that whatsoever. Nicarima and Atkin, they are the halfbacks. Lewis, Almonroyd are the front row with Ackers, again, in great form. He was in our team of the week and also team of the month this week, such is the form that Andy Ackers finds himself in. Russell, Fulton in the second row, Sutton at loose forward. On the bench, Riley Dean, Will Gardner, Sker, and surprisingly, Joe Mellor. That, for me, Lauren, is the surprise. That's the surprise of that squad, is that Joe Mellor's on the bench.
I know, and our caller will be questioning everything. Maybe he's just a little bit tired. Maybe they think can put him on fresh and he can cause a bit of mayhem. Let the the first 13 go out, tire Wakey out a little bit, and then we all know Joe Mellor's got a little bit of flair. He's good at getting past defending players, and he can pull strings. So maybe that's the game plan. It's unusual. Maybe he's carrying a little bit of an injury and they're just a little bit unsure, but he wants, do you think he's fit enough to play? I think until he gets on the pitch, we're not going to know the reasons for it. And I think it'll be, if he's carrying an injury, I think it'll be obvious early on.
Yeah, and of course, Sutton, he's not played there many, well, certainly not in the recent past. He's not played there many times at least forward. It's an interesting dynamic there for the Bradford Bulls. Let's move across to Wakey, Craig. Their team tonight, Josh Rourke at fullback, John Stone and Wormsley on the wings, Tate and Scott there in the halves. Then Lawford. This is the interesting one. Lawford, of course, no Sinfield, no Lino. So Lawford comes up into the squad. Big night for him tonight alongside Truman. McMeekin, Smoothie back in at hooker. Of course, he was in the halves last week. Played well also, but really good to see Lawford. I'm going to be looking forward to watching that young man play tonight, I have to say. Lalesio, he's back in the front row. No Rodwell tonight. So good to see Lalesio there. Staunton and Vegana, of course, no Nicotimo, still out. And Tavanga at loose forward, and then the bench. There it is. Pitts, Hammond and Yelly, Fartilly, of course. Wait for them to come on after 25. I think we all look forward to them coming on when they're not playing our team after 25, just for the sheer spectacle of it, Mr. Fourth, and of course Harvey Smith at the interchange hooker. Lawford at scrum half. This could be good.
It could be. It's interesting to see what he's going to be able to do. I mean, you've got a great partnership there with Truman anyway, because he's a fantastic player. So it should be really interesting to see what he can do. But when you say about that bench as well, I've said for a while, I think they must have arguably the best bench in the league. Does Wakefield, who they can bring on as impact players. I don't think there's many teams that could turn around and have that many impact players that can just come on and switch a game around like Wakefield can. They are really entertaining to watch, and he's got such a good unit. Is Wakefield and what Darryl Powell's doing there? They are like I say, I really enjoy watching Wakefield at the minute. They are just so entertaining. But yeah, Lawford and Truman should be very interesting to see what they can create in the halves today.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to seeing the young man playing it. And he's right, Lauren, isn't he? I mean, when you think Rodwell's the 18th man there, you look at the fact that Nicotimo is injured, so Staunton ordinarily would be an interchange option for them as well. They've just got bags of riches, haven't they, at the moment, Wakefield, in terms of that middle unit.
Yeah, but just the whole team in general, they're all exciting players. You don't feel like anyone's being carried within that team. And with Craig, Wakefield are a team that are exciting to watch. I think all of us are kind of, besides our own team, kind of rooting for Wakey. It's nice to see them having come up, done all the hard work, done all the hard graft, and then be sitting well within that top six.
Guilty pleasure, I think they call it, Lauren.
It's not guilty, it's just a pleasure.
Happy days. Well, look, at the moment, I'm a bit upset because we've been robbed of this from the start. Hopefully we get to see a bit of this tussle during the course of the 80 minutes tonight. But arguably, two of the top 3 13s going toe-to-toe tonight at Odsal. I will throw Ben Curry into the mix and also Oliver Partington. I think they're the top 4 for me this year. Partington, Curry, Mellor and Tavanga. These two are in incredible form. They bring so much to both sides. Who comes out on top? If they actually go to, it's a shame they're not starting together. And I love these two to have started the game, if I'm being honest. We've been robbed of that with Joe being on the bench. But who'd come out on top? Or who is going to come out on top, Lauren, in these two?
I think Tavanga. I think it's going to be a case of the players around them, pulling, being them supporting players. Joe Mellor's an outstanding player, and I'll say that for, our caller, who is the number one member of the Joe Mellor fan club on Ladies Tackle Talk. But yeah, I just see the fact that Joe's only playing half a game raises questions for me as to whether he's fully fit, and is that something that we need to consider? But I see it being Wakey dominating.
There is another way of looking at this, Craig, in the fact that, I'll just go back through the starting pack tonight of Bradford. Lewis and Ormonroyd in the front row, Ackers, Hooker, Russell, Fulton and Sutton. Is he trying to get on top in the middle to bring Mellor on to have that impact once potentially the Wakey pack have been put to bed? I mean, it's a hell of a game plan if that is the strategy, to try and dominate middle territory early doors, down the middle, and then bring Joe on, who we know has got that little bit about him in terms of being able to grab a game by the scruff of the neck. It's a lot easier to do that against tired middles than it is against fully fit middles. And of course, if Joe started, his fatigue would kick in, wouldn't it, as the longer the game go? We know that Joe's been doing the work of two men all season. Tonight, he's going to be asked to do the work of himself. Could that be a strategy that Kurt Haggerty's looking at here?
Quite possibly. It's like when you look at them stats, you can see that Tavaga's more of a puncher down the middle, whereas Mellor's more of a creative player. And I think from what he can do, when you're right, when someone is starting to get a bit tired, let that creative player come on and then really shine. And that's when you could start maybe getting round Wakefield's defensive line with that creative spark when he's coming on a bit more fresher. And that's probably quite a good little strategy that Bradford are coming out with on this one. Tire him out and then bring on the creative spark to get around him.
Maybe. Both centres tonight, Guy Armitage and Wonga Blake, 100 career appearances. Congratulations to both players. Outstanding. Right. Let's do it. The last one. Who wins and by how many, Lauren?
I've got Wakey by 18.
A solid win for Wakey at Odsal. Craig?
I'm going Wakey by 12 because of Bradford being at home. They're a bit more tougher at home, and obviously it's a more small and narrow pitch, which Bradford are more used to, so that can compact Wakefield a little bit more. So I think that might just slow them down slightly, but I'm still going to go Wakefield by 12. I'm
going to give them 22. I'm going to give them 22. I think they'll be buoyed by last week. I think they're in good form. And I genuinely hope the young lad has a really good game. And Joe, well done to Darryl Powell on that, by the way. It'd have been very, very easy to put Smoothie back in the halves tonight and not give that young man the opportunity. And what we do love here at Super League Round is young talent, tomorrow's talent, getting that opportunity today. So well done to Darryl Powell for putting his faith in the young chap. And let's hope that he has a really, really good game. And yeah, another star is born potentially on the big stage. So there you go. That's the captain's run for another week. It's been a little larger than the one in the middle. It's been a really good show. Thanks very much indeed. Of course, you'll be listening to both these in the coming days. Craig, of course, with the final hooter, that will be going out on Monday. Tackle Talk with the ladies of Super League Raw will be out on Tuesday. And of course, yours truly will be back probably Monday. We've turned out the lights. The round is over. Everybody's starting to enjoy that one. And of course, Super League Raw weekly on Tuesday night, live at 8 p.m. Just remind Steph, Tuesday night, 8 p.m. live.
No football this week.
Exactly. No moving around. It's definitely going to be 8 o'clock on Tuesday. But for myself, from Craig, from Lauren, look, enjoy round number 19. Something tells me there's going to be some big stories coming out of this one. And we'll unwrap it all on the other side of the weekend. From Lauren, from Craig, and from myself, let Rugby League be the winner. Enjoy it. Bye for now.